After turning 60, I thought I had everything figured out. I believed honesty was always the right choice, especially with family. I thought that by opening my heart completely, I would find peace. But I was wrong. One small confession, shared out of love, ended up changing everything. It created tension, worry, and distance with the people I loved most. I learned that sometimes silence isn't deception, it's protection. Not every truth needs to be spoken, and not every thought deserves an audience. In this stage of life, peace becomes priceless. Over the years, I've come to understand that keeping certain things to yourself isn't about hiding. It's about preserving calm, dignity, and independence. In this video, I want to share 6 powerful lessons, the 6 secrets you should never share with your family after 60. I learned them the hard way, through regret, reflection, and eventually acceptance. My hope is that my story helps you protect your own peace and live the rest of your years with quiet strength. Secret number 1, the silent fears you carry. When you reach 60, fear takes on a different face. It's not about monsters under the bed anymore. It's about the thoughts that visit you at night, whispering questions you wish you didn't have to answer. Will my money last? What if my health changes? Who will be there when I can't do things on my own? One winter night, I made what I thought was a brave decision. I shared one of those fears with my daughter. We were having tea, the kind of slow evening where everything feels safe. I told her quietly that I was worried about my savings not lasting long enough. I didn't mean to make it heavy. I just wanted to be honest. She listened, nodded, and said, "Dad, don't worry. I'll take care of everything." Those words sounded comforting, but what came after changed something between us. She started checking on my bills, questioning my purchases, gently correcting the way I handled things. It came from love, I know that now. But love mixed with fear turns into control. Over time, I began to feel smaller, like a child in my own home. The independence I'd worked for my entire life quietly slipped away, not because she wanted to take it, but because I'd handed it over when I shared that one fear. That moment taught me something I never forgot. Some fears are not meant to be shared, only managed. When you tell your children everything that keeps you awake at night, you transfer your anxiety onto them. They start to see you as fragile, not wise, and that changes the balance of love. It's okay to be scared. Fear doesn't mean weakness, it means you care. But there's power in what you choose to hold inside. The same way we once shielded our children from what they couldn't handle. Sometimes we must now shield them from our own storms. Instead of pouring out every worry, find other spaces to release them. A trusted friend, a journal, a quiet walk, a prayer. Let your fears breathe, but don't let them take root in someone else's heart. Because here's the truth I wish someone had told me. Peace is not found in telling everything. Peace is found in knowing what not to say. Secret number 2, the regrets of the past. There's a strange pull that comes with age, the desire to confess, to make peace with our own past. Maybe it's the weight of unfinished conversations, or the hope that, by telling our children the whole truth, they'll somehow understand us better. I fell into that trap once. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon. My son and I were talking about life choices, about how mistakes shape who we become. The air felt gentle. The moment felt right. So I decided to tell him something I'd carried for decades. A decision I made in my 30s that hurt someone I loved deeply. He listened carefully, but I could see his eyes shift. Something in his expression changed from curiosity to confusion, and then to distance. He didn't say much afterward. For weeks, he was polite but quiet. I realized he was processing not just my words, but a new version of me. The father he thought he knew had flaws he wasn't ready to see. That night, I sat alone and replayed our conversation over and over. I told myself honesty was the right thing, but deep down, it didn't feel like healing. It felt like I'd reopened an old wound that didn't need to bleed again. That's when I learned a painful truth. Not every regret deserves a witness. Some stories are meant to stay between you and time itself. Our children don't need to carry the ghosts of our past. They have enough of their own to face. What they need from us now isn't our guilt, but our wisdom. When you share an old mistake, do it only if there's a lesson attached, something that will help them, not burden them. And even then, choose your words carefully. Speak from reflection, not remorse. There's a difference between confession and connection. Confession seeks release. Connection seeks understanding. When we overshare our past pain, we risk confusing the two and losing both. I learned to forgive myself quietly without needing validation. Some apologies are meant for the mirror, not the dinner table. So if you carry regrets, remember this. They are not chains, they are teachers. You don't need to pass them down like family heirlooms. Let them rest where they belong, in your own story, not theirs. Because in the end, peace doesn't come from revealing every scar. It comes from accepting that you've healed enough to move on. Secret number 3, the truth about money and independence. Money changes shape after 60. It's no longer about building wealth. It's about protecting peace. Every dollar feels like a reminder of the life you've built and the independence you've earned. But I learned the hard way that even a simple truth about money can change how your family sees you. It happened 3 years ago. I just received a notice about my property tax, higher than I expected. I mentioned it to my son over dinner, half joking, half frustrated. I said something like, "If this keeps up, I'll be living on canned soup by next Christmas." He laughed at first. Then he stopped laughing. The next morning, he called to ask about my bank account. A few days later, he offered to help manage things for me. Soon I realized he had started checking my bills, setting automatic payments, and even calling my insurance company. It came from love, I know that. He wanted to make sure I was safe. But the truth is, I didn't feel safe. I felt small, like I'd lost the right to steer my own life. No one warns you that when you share your financial worries, people might mistake your vulnerability for incapacity. They don't mean harm. They just forget that you've been solving problems longer than they've been alive. I began to notice subtle changes. My children would hesitate before suggesting a restaurant, afraid it was too expensive for me. My daughter stopped letting me pay for family dinners, saying, "Dad, you've done enough." And though her heart was in the right place, every gesture felt like a quiet reminder that I was no longer the provider. I spent a lot of nights thinking about that. Was honesty worth the loss of dignity? Or had I mistaken full transparency for trust? Eventually, I understood something essential. Sharing every financial detail doesn't create connection. It creates caution. When you let your children see too much of your worry, they stop seeing your strength. They start seeing your limits, and once they do, it's hard to bring that balance back. Money is emotional. It carries stories of the years you worked through pain, of choices you made when you had nothing but hope. Those stories belong to you. They are not numbers. They are symbols of your resilience. Now, I still talk about finances with my kids, but differently. I share what they need to know, not everything I feel. I let them see stability, not struggle. If I need advice, I ask for it clearly, not out of fear, but confidence. I'd like your opinion, not your control. Because at this age, independence is worth more than money. The power to decide what to share and what to hold is part of what keeps you whole. We've spent decades teaching our children how to stand on their own. But now we must gently remind them that we still can too. You can love your family and still protect your autonomy. You can be grateful for their help and still say, "I've got this." And if they worry, let them. Worry means they care, but never let that worry rewrite who you are. Your wisdom didn't retire when you did. Your experience didn't fade the day you turned 60. It's still your life, your story, your wallet, your rules. So hold your peace close. Share your truth selectively, because sometimes the best way to show your family that you're okay is to quietly keep being okay. Secret number 4, when love turns into sides. No one prepares you for how delicate family love becomes after 60. It's still strong, but it changes shape, like a thread that's been pulled too tight. One wrong word, one story told in the wrong moment, and that thread can fray. That's what happened to me when I decided to share too much about my marriage. It was during a rough patch. My wife and I had been arguing over small things that somehow grew into big things. What to keep, what to throw away, how to spend our time. It wasn't dramatic, just the usual rhythm of two people who've lived a long life together. But one night, out of exhaustion, I told my daughter about it. We were sitting in the living room. She asked how things were going, and I let my guard down. I told her that her mother and I weren't seeing eye to eye lately. I expected comfort, or maybe advice. Instead, she got quiet. Her face changed. Softness turned to concern, then to judgment. The next day, she called her mother. By the end of the week, my wife knew everything I'd said. And the silence that filled our home after that was louder than any argument we'd ever had. That was the night I realized something painful. When you invite your children into your marriage problems, they don't stay as spectators. They become participants. They take sides even when they don't mean to. I had turned my private storm into a public one, and everyone got wet. It took months to heal that rift. My wife forgave me eventually, but trust had shifted. And my daughter, she never looked at us quite the same way again. I could see it in her eyes every time we were all together. She saw cracks that once were invisible. I learned painfully that love and privacy are not enemies. They're partners. Protecting your private life doesn't mean hiding it. It means honoring the space where love can breathe without judgment. At our age, it's easy to crave understanding, especially from our children. We want them to see that we're human too, that we hurt and struggle and sometimes fail. But not every truth builds closeness. Some truths create walls you never intended. If you're married or even just close to someone, remember this: what happens between two people is sacred ground. When you let someone else step into that space, especially a child, they can't unsee what they've seen. It's not that they'll love you less, they'll just love you differently. And that difference can be heavy. Now, when I feel the urge to vent, I pause. I take a walk. I write down my thoughts before I speak them. I ask myself, will sharing this heal something or hurt something? Most times, silence is the wiser answer. Love at this age isn't about saying everything. It's about protecting what still matters. You don't owe your family every detail of your heart. You owe them the best of your peace. And sometimes, that means keeping the door between generations gently closed. Just enough to let love in, but not enough for the storm to spill out. Because here's the truth I learned the hard way. When love turns into sides, everyone loses. But when love is protected with silence and grace, everyone wins. Secret number 5, when care turns into control. Getting older brings 1,000 small surprises, some gentle, some cruel. You start noticing the stiffness in your knees in the morning, the way your breath shortens when you climb the stairs, the glasses you can't seem to find because they're already on your head. These things are small, manageable. But one day, you mention them out loud, and everything changes. It started innocently for me. I told my son that I'd been feeling dizzy lately, that sometimes I forgot small things, where I left my keys, the name of a neighbor I've known for years. I didn't think much of it. I thought I was just sharing life, being open. The next day, he called. The day after that, he called again. By the end of the week, he'd arranged a doctor's appointment without even asking me. Then came the questions. Did you eat? Did you take your pills? Do you think it's safe for you to drive? I know he meant well. Every word came from love, but somewhere between his worry and my honesty, I lost something, my sense of control. For months, I felt like a patient in my own home. Every small decision was second-guessed, every quiet moment interrupted by concern. And as strange as it sounds, that concern became heavier than the illness itself. I realized then that sometimes sharing every detail about your health doesn't bring comfort. It brings caution. It changes the way your family sees you. You stop being the parent, the elder, the anchor, and you become someone fragile, someone to protect, someone to manage. I missed being seen as capable. I missed being trusted with my own choices. One afternoon, I met an old friend at a cafe, Carol. She told me she'd recently mentioned to her son that she was having small memory lapses. Now, she said, he calls me 3 times a day just to remind me to take my medicine. It's sweet, but I feel like I'm disappearing. That word, disappearing, hit me like a stone, because that's exactly how it feels when love forgets to respect. After that, I learned to speak differently. I still tell my family when something serious happens, because love also means honesty. But I've learned to measure my words. Instead of saying, I'm feeling weak, I say, I'm taking care of myself. Instead of listing symptoms, I talk about how I'm managing them. It changes the tone, and it changes the way they see me. Getting older doesn't mean giving up control. It means mastering it differently. You can ask for help without surrendering your strength. You can be cared for without being caged. You can accept concern without letting it define you. So if you ever feel that urge to tell your family every ache, in every pain, every medical update, pause. Ask yourself, am I sharing this to connect or to be comforted? Because connection can be quiet. It doesn't always need a diagnosis attached. Peace in later life is found in balance, the space between love and independence. And the truth is, the people who truly love you don't want to take your freedom. They just don't know how to love you without fear. Teach them gently. Show them that you are still strong, still capable, still living. Because while bodies may age, dignity never should. And the greatest medicine for a peaceful life after 60 is being trusted to live it on your own terms. Secret number 6, the dreams you still hold. When you reach 60, people assume your story is already written, that the chapters of risk and adventure are behind you. But what they don't understand is that inside, you're still the same person who once dreamed of faraway places, of doing something meaningful, of feeling alive again. For years, I carried a small dream in my heart. I wanted to travel across the country by train, just me and my camera. No schedules, no rush, just long conversations with strangers and the hum of the tracks beneath my feet. It wasn't about escape. It was about remembering who I was before life got busy, before responsibilities took over. One afternoon, during a family dinner, I decided to share it. My son laughed softly and said, "Dad, that sounds nice, but you are not 20 anymore." My daughter smiled a little awkwardly and added, "Maybe just watch some travel documentaries instead." They meant no harm. They were being practical. But that practicality landed like a stone in my chest. That night, I sat alone and realized something quietly painful. They saw me as old, fragile, done. And for the first time in my life, I believed them. I stopped talking about my dream. I folded it neatly and tucked it away in the back of my mind, like an old photograph I didn't want to look at anymore. Months passed. Then one morning, I saw the sunrise spilling over my backyard. The sky was orange and gold, and something in me stirred again. I thought, why am I waiting for someone else to approve how I live my life? That was the moment I decided. I might be older, but I am not finished. So I didn't cross the country by train. Not yet. But I started taking small trips again. Local art fairs, weekend drives, quiet mornings at the lake with my camera. Every photo felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. And do you know what happened? My family noticed. They started asking questions, smiling when I showed them my pictures. The more I lived my dreams quietly, the more they began to understand that I didn't need permission. I just needed presence. I've come to believe that after 60, dreams are not luxuries. They are necessities. They keep your spirit awake. They remind you that life doesn't shrink unless you let it. We spend so much time telling ourselves it's too late, that we should be content, that desire belongs to the young. But the truth is, every breath you take means there's still something left to see, to learn, to feel. Maybe your dream isn't a train ride. Maybe it's starting a garden, learning an instrument, writing a book, or simply spending a week alone by the ocean. Whatever it is, it deserves to live, quietly, stubbornly, beautifully. So protect your dreams. Nurture them in secret if you must, or not everyone will understand them, and that's okay. You're not dreaming to impress anyone. You're dreaming to remember who you are. And that, I've learned, is the final secret to a peaceful life. Never stop carrying the small fire inside you. The world may see your wrinkles, your gray hair, your slower steps, but you know the truth. The fire still burns, so keep it alive. Feed it with hope, with curiosity, with small acts of courage. Because peace isn't about giving up on life. It's about living it softly on your own terms until your very last page. What peace really means after 60. After all these years, I've realized that peace doesn't come from fixing every relationship or explaining every feeling. It comes from knowing what to hold close and what to let go. When I look back, every secret I kept or shared taught me something about love. I used to think honesty meant telling everything. Now I understand that honesty also means protecting what is sacred. Your heart, your boundaries, your peace. There's a quiet kind of wisdom that comes after 60. It's the understanding that not every truth builds bridges. Some truths, when spoken too soon or too loudly, can break what time took decades to mend. And so, silence becomes more than absence. It becomes a form of love. The fears we keep inside aren't weaknesses. They're reminders that we still care about tomorrow. The regrets we carry aren't curses. They're proof that we've lived and learned. The money we guard, the health we manage, the dreams we keep tucked away, they all tell the same story. We are still trying, still growing, still learning how to be whole. And isn't that the most beautiful part? That even now, after so many years, we're still learning. If I could speak to my younger self, I'd tell him this. You don't owe the world every piece of your soul. You don't need to explain every scar. You don't need to shout your worth. It's written quietly in the life you've lived. At this age, peace is not about being understood by everyone. It's about understanding yourself. It's about walking slower, breathing deeper, forgiving faster. It's about knowing that you can love your family deeply, yet still keep a room in your heart that belongs only to you. There's beauty in boundaries. There's healing in discretion. And there's enormous power in silence chosen with love. I know now that life after 60 isn't the ending people think it is. It's a second act, a quieter, wiser, more deliberate one. It's the time when you finally realize that happiness doesn't shout, it whispers. So tonight, as you sit in your favorite chair, maybe with a cup of tea in your hands, ask yourself gently, What part of my life still deserves protection? What truth is mine alone to keep? And what dream inside me still wants to breathe? Guard those things. Nurture them. They're your soul's inheritance. The treasures you've earned by living, losing, loving, and learning. Because peace isn't given to you. It's something you create, moment by moment, with every decision to let go, every choice to stay kind, and every silence that comes from understanding, rather than fear. And maybe, in that stillness, you'll realize something I wish I had known sooner. You are not defined by what you've lost or what you've shared. You are defined by what you've chosen to keep sacred. Thank you for walking this path with me. And wherever you are in your story, remember this simple truth. Your life isn't over. Your peace has just begun.